everyone. Interested in hearing about diversity and inclusion in the workplace? Interested in hearing two respected business leaders talking about it? Well, if so, please stay tuned. This is A Bit of Business. My name is John Fitzgerald, and on behalf of Lear Media TV and the British and Irish Trading Alliance, welcome to the show. Our special guests today are Jackie O'Donovan and Brendan Kenny. By way of introduction, BITA member and sponsor Jackie O'Donovan has achieved huge recognition as a business leader in an historically non-diverse and non-inclusive industry, namely the construction sector. At 19, she became managing director of O'Donovan Waste Disposal based in Tottenham, North London, after restructuring the business with her three siblings to continue the legacy of her late father, Joe, who founded the business in 1959. A passionate advocate for improved training and education for her employees, and as someone who has broken the diversity glass ceiling within the construction sector, Jackie has successfully grown her business from a company turning over about £175,000 a year to a £20 million a year powerhouse, while expanding the 1988 workforce of just 12 people to 185 people today. Brendan is the chair of BITA in the Isle of Man, a director at Changing Streams, a director at Ellenstone Consulting, and he is passionate about cleaning up the environment. He has over 35 years of senior level business experience within the construction, technology, and distribution sectors. Brendan is also dyslexic, so has a very personal perspective on diversity and inclusion. Jackie, Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Jackie, I'm going to start with you on this question. When I say diversity and inclusion in the workplace, what does that mean to you?
Gosh, it means lots of things. Different skill sets, different types of people, different challenges, different sexes, different ethnic minorities. So yeah, it means quite a lot, actually. Yeah, it's a lot bigger than it actually sounds as a sentence in the industry itself, and in particular in construction.
Same question to you, Brendan. What does it mean to you?
For me, inclusion and diversity means that if you can reflect your workforce to your customer base and your environment, you're going to get a much better engagement with your customers, because you need better thinking and more creative thinking. And you can only do that when you get challenged by other people who've had a different life journey than you have, and have got a different experience and a different view on the world. I was never always like this. It's only as you grow and as you understand that the world is a much different place when you get out and about, and you go overseas and you see different cultures and you see the way different people work. And anyone who does any overseas business will understand that you have to reflect the culture you're going into to adapt to their own mannerisms, their own identities. I mean, for instance, if you go to China, it's a much different way of how you have to deal with people, how you have to talk to people, in much the same way as America. They might speak the same language, but they do business in a much different way. So if you've got a really inclusive, diverse workforce, it's going to give you more of an edge when you're trying to expand your business and move forward.
Jackie, is it fair to say that a lot of people understand the diversity piece, but less people get the inclusion piece when it comes to diversity and inclusion? And if so, why is that?
Yeah, I think that is true. My experience is very different to Brendan's, because we don't do any overseas business, or, we are UK only. So we don't get that cultural element of different countries that speak the same language but don't actually do business in the same way. And having had experience in America, I totally get what Brendan's saying, but we don't have that here. And I suppose for me, it's like health and safety. The safety element was always in health and safety, but the health bit was always missed. So with diversity and inclusion, the diversity bit is understood. It's a word I suppose people are familiar with. The inclusion bit, they sort of stumble, as in, well, what does that actually mean in a waste business that is servicing the construction industry? So education is key around this. And unfortunately, pre-COVID, I was the co-chair of the Department of Transport, who were doing a diversity and inclusion piece for transport, because transport again is dominated by males. But unfortunately, we got hit by COVID, so the program got cut short. But yeah, I think education is a massive element for our industry when we're talking about diversity and inclusion. And I also think that people are scared to ask. You know, I have the motto that there's no such thing as a stupid question. As far as I'm concerned, if you don't know something, ask. You know, I would never shoot anybody down if they asked a question that could be deemed to be stupid, because as far as I'm concerned, you know, no more than Brendan, I ran out of school at 16, sticking two fingers up to my teachers going, bye, I don't need you. So yeah, I don't believe there is a such thing as a stupid question, and I think education is paramount, and the ability to talk freely about it is being taken away from us. Not only in in diversity and inclusion, but in other subjects and other areas of the business. And I think we're going down a very dangerous path if we continue to go down this way.
Brendan, reflecting on your career over the last 20 years, especially in the context of your dyslexia and looking at diversity and inclusion, that comment about people maybe somewhat paying lip service to diversity, but not necessarily understanding or engaging with the inclusion piece, what has your experience been?
My experience is that, you know, when you actually work with people who are on the spectrum, right? So let's say ADHD, autism, dyslexia, etc. I look at it as a superpower, as a skill set, because they work in different ways and they can do things which someone with autism can really focus, and they make amazing coders in the IT sector, for example. I can't do that. You know, my brain is all over the place trying to join dots and make them 2 and 2 make 27. So I do have I flit around in my head, whereas other people can really stay focused, and they have to get that specific thing done, which is fantastic for a business because you need that. But you need the whole inclusive range of those skills to actually make something work really, really well. You know, it's like you think about a car. The car's made up of the engine, the driver, the wheels, etc. Certain things just need to do what they do. You know, the wheels just need to turn, but someone's got to control those wheels, right? So if you imagine that they can comparing the skill sets with a car, with all the different aspects of that, that's what you've got to create within your business, because you know you need every aspect to be able to be successful and to win.
Jackie, you've been a bit of a trailblazer for female leaders in the construction sector, given your position and your success with O'Donovan Waste Management. So what has changed most significantly in relation to diversity and inclusion in your business, but also what you've observed in other businesses over the last 15 or 20 years?
I think there's way more acceptance that everybody doesn't look the same, sound the same, do the same thing. Like Brendan, my son was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. So he tells me quite frequently, you've got ADHD. I'm telling you now, you've got ADHD, because I'm a million miles an hour. I can spin 20 plates, juggle 20 balls, and answer the telephone and do an email at the same time. So I think from our era, things were never identified. But now I think things are being identified, and people have different skill sets. And you know, if I think of my office now today, we've got over 14 different nationalities in the business totally in general, but I've probably got quite a few with ADHD, a couple with OCD, and a couple on the spectrum. And as Brendan says, that when they're in their role, like, no one can touch them. You mean, I've got one person that's on the spectrum, and if I had 5 of them, I could sack the rest of them. You know, the amount of accuracy and dedication is just unreal. It's actually very exciting to watch it happen. I see it. I don't think other people see it in my office. I think they just think that that person's really quiet and a bit odd, but I can see what they're doing, and I can see the amount they're doing, and it is actually quite fascinating to watch it all like happen during the day. So yeah.
That's actually very interesting. Sorry, if I could just jump in on that one, because when you look at the amount of dyslexics who are business leaders, you know, Richard Branson and the like, that you've just described exactly why they're successful, because they can see what other people can't see, and they can actually build the jigsaw to make it work. So that's an absolutely excellent point. And just going on onto family, I only found out I was really dyslexic when I was in my late 30s, when my mum told me that she was dyslexic and my daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia. And of course, they joined the dot between the two. There we go.
So the clearly you see the value in this diversity and inclusion in your business, Jackie. Now, looking across other businesses, is there still a large gap in from a diversity and inclusion perspective between the senior management leadership of companies and the general workforce? And how do you address that?
Yeah, massively. Gosh, how do we address it? That's a tough one. I don't know what it is about me, but when I'm out on the social circuit within the industry, I attract men on the spectrum. They seem to come towards me for conversation. I don't know why that is. I don't know why I attract so many men on the spectrum. But if I walk into a room, you can be guaranteed if there's 5 people on the spectrum in that room, they come and talk to me. So I don't know what it is that I let off that attract them. But I don't think it's discussed. It's another one of these taboo things, you know, like postnatal depression, the menopause, you know, it's just religion, things like that. It's just another thing that everybody's so scared to talk about. And I think it is ruining businesses and communities, because we're not allowed to openly ask questions or openly inquire. And you know, I suppose naturally we're inquisitive and we want to know. So I think that's going to be something that's going to hold us back massively unless we start cutting through the red tape and, you know, having honest conversations. But those honest conversations are also educational conversations, where we can all learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely right. And again, the best question is why. You know, why? You know, or I don't know, and why. You know, because you never get to the answer unless you ask the question why. And lots of people, unless they're given that opportunity to ask, you know, I don't know, is the best thing you can have in the boardroom, because otherwise you're not going to. People just pay lip service because they don't want to be seen to be stupid, you know. And so you have to give them that environment to allow them to ask the question. You know, I run something called the Digiverse, which started off as technology for non-technology managers. And it was all around people who are making decisions to procure technology who had no clue about what technology is and how it worked. So they're making decisions on stuff they don't understand because they don't want to say they don't know. So we set up the Digiverse to say, right, okay, well, here's the spectrum of how it all works. This is what you need to do. And it acts very much like the construction sector. You need to get an expert in to help you to understand what you're asking for, you know. But it's that I don't know, and people are very loath to say I don't know. So we need to encourage I don't know more and more and more.
I think that's a great point, Brendan, and asking the questions and creating that culture of, well, no question is off limits is a great start to do that. Jackie, from your perspective, what do you think needs to change in the area of recruitment and human resources when it comes to diversity and inclusion to shift the paradigm somewhat in businesses?
Gosh, that's a tough one. So I've probably been campaigning for in excess of 12 years now to encourage women into a male-dominated industry. You know, I've got to get to the point where I think, you know, I've done 12 years of it. If you don't want to join, I can't do any more. You know, I go out, I speak about it. It's a fantastic industry. You know, it's every day's different. It's fun. So I don't know. I think we need to build confidence in people, and I try and do that at work. So in my office, the majority are people that have worked their way up because I've seen their talents within them. When they come in and they might, ask me some questions and they're not sure about, will I or won't I give them the confidence to actually sort of take the next step. So I was approached recently by a life coach that they're just going into life coaching. They wanted a couple of I suppose dummy clients, for want of a better word, and she asked me, did I know anybody? And just within, she texted me within that, the reading the text, I probably could have named 10 people that lack a spark, that lack confidence in themselves. And I think until we're allowed to discuss it and not take it personally, we're never going to get over this hurdle. At the end of the day, business is business. It's nothing personal, it's business. We've got to do what the client wants to get the money, to put it into the bank, to pay the wages. It's just a circle. So in doing that, we want to do it to the best of our ability. To be able to do that, we need to understand the person that's actually helping us do that. So if we can't open up and ask them questions, or ask them what challenges they're facing, or what parts would they like to be trained on, or would they like to try something different, we're never going to know. But then once we do that, it's then giving them the confidence to actually take that forward. So I've often offered training courses to people that have sort of gone, I don't know, will I be able to do that? So yeah, I suppose I try, as a woman in a male-dominated industry, to do things that men predominantly do, so I can prove to women that we can do it.
Brendan, your thoughts on what needs to change from a recruitment and human resources perspective as well to shift this paradigm around diversity and inclusion?
That's a big one. It does need a mindset shift in probably more different sectors than construction. I think it needs to be across the piece. I think that smaller businesses naturally, with leaders like Jacqueline who see the value, will automatically. And the reason why people get attracted is because they know you understand them, right? So that's one of the. I could see it straight away. So what needs to change? We understanding. We more discussion. It's not going to change overnight, and highlighting the successful businesses which have a diverse and inclusive workforce, and show how they're winning, and do more things like this, discuss it, and maybe at one of the BITA events we have someone talking about that on stage as a keynote. Who knows? Let's get it to a wider audience.
No, I think a panel discussion on this would make great sense at a future BITA event, because it's absolutely appropriate. Last question for you both. I'll go to you first on this, Jackie. For the audience and the business leaders that are listening, what suggestions do you have for them as they go on their diversity and inclusion journey and try and embrace and release the value from diversity and inclusion in their workforces?
I think the first thing they need to do is make sure it's not a tick box exercise. So much over my years of doing my role, things have been implemented and it's just been a tick box exercise. So I think they would be very silly to assume that this was a tick box exercise, and they just need to take a step back and look at what they've got in their staff and try and encourage that. And the more they encourage that, the stronger their business is going to be, and the stronger their bottom line is going to be. But they need to probably take a step back and look at and study people. And when I say study, I don't mean like I'll take a week off and just start watching Tom or Sally or whoever. I mean, just look at what they're doing, and are they engaged in that role? If they're not engaged in that role, they're probably bored senseless. So then that means they're probably able to do something a little bit more senior or more that needs more responsibility. So I think they need to actually use their eyes and just, or even have a chat, just have a quick chat. You know, I had a member of staff only started with us last week, wanted to hand her notice in after 3 days. And it was, well, she's going, do you want to see her? I said, yeah, of course I want to see her. So I brought her in and I said to her, you know, I need to understand why after 3 days you're going. And she couldn't put it into words. And I said, look, okay, the job's not for you. I totally get that. But I need to understand, am I advertising it wrong? Have I got the wrong title? Are we not explaining it at interview level correctly? So she engaged with me once she realised that I was trying to find out this information, so we didn't repeat the error again. And she was quite open. She was looking more for an admin quiet role. This was one that was on the phone, and it was going to be flat out busy. So it obviously wasn't for her skill set or what she saw herself doing. But if I hadn't have brought her into my office and asked those questions, I wouldn't have been able to feed that back to the commercial director to say, right, well, this is what her comments were. So maybe the title's wrong. Maybe we're doing the training backwards. Maybe we should let them sit in, soak it up to sit, because it is quite a fast-paced environment. And some people don't like that, especially since COVID. I'm finding anxiety is like through the roof with everybody. So a fast-paced environment doesn't suit some people. So yeah, if I was giving advice to leaders, would be to take a few minutes, just have a look around, have a listen to what's going on around you, and to see if you're missing little golden nuggets within the workforce.
Brilliant. Seeking to understand is a very powerful leadership skill, Jackie, and I know employees appreciate that. Brendan, same question to you. Suggestions for the business leaders listening as they try and embrace diversity and inclusion?
I would absolutely concur with Jacqueline, on the tick box side. And I think the world has changed massively, and it's gathering pace that you can't just tick box anymore. ESG is absolutely rampaging through business, and lots of small businesses don't understand what that means yet, and the impact it will have on them. And the inclusion and diversity sits solely right in the middle in terms of the social side and looking after your people. And once they understand that, and they understand that if they do this correctly, it's going to help them win business. We talked about, we've got to invoice, we've got to keep the business moving. You've got to put yourself in a position to be attractive to your customers. And if you're got your ESG right and your people right in the center, you're going to win more business. And that's one of the key things which is going to give you a driver. And that's probably given me the most encouragement for a long time. I've been around the sustainability side for 15 years, and I've been in the construction sector on a redistribution project of materials where tick box. I was in so many brochures saying that people were going to do stuff and they did nothing, but they ticked the box to said they were going to do it, and you can't do that anymore. You have to prove what you're doing. You have to evidence it. And if you do, you will win. You will win business, and you'll get ahead of the competition. And that's what we want to do. We create a great company with great people. Not just for yourselves, but for your stakeholders, for your customers, right? And you're going to win. So let's embrace it. Let's make sure we measure it, and let's move it forward.
What I'm hearing here, Jackie and Brendan, diversity and inclusion is a definite asset and a competitive advantage to businesses, both large and small. This is the start of a long conversation we will have within the BITA and business community, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your candor and your insights. Very much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been A Bit of Business. My name is John Fitzgerald. Thank you all for watching.